Hey, it's me, Jonathan from Motor Psychology. Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. It's midwinter in this area of the country where I'm at. It's usually a little bit colder than it is today, but we still have a ton of snow on the ground. And I'm walking on a walking or biking or snowmobiling path right now. We still have easily a foot or more snow on the ground. So it's pretty cool and very typical of the winters around here. So in today's video, I'm going to be taking off the thermostat housing or cover, taking the thermostat off, cleaning up the mating surfaces, and putting a new thermostat and either a new thermostat cover or refurbishing the old one and putting that back on. So I'm undecided, but I'm still going to refurbish the old one and see how it looks, or I'm going to put the new one on. So let's get into this video. Anyway, thanks for being here, watching the video. Your support is greatly appreciated. Let's dive into this one and see how it goes. Hey everyone, here we are out by the Corvette. Today's work is going to be relatively simple, but it's going to be a great change. We're going to be removing the thermostat cover and also checking out the thermostat and making a decision whether or not I want to refurbish that thermostat cover or put a new one on. And we're going to get this done, and we'll see if it's got a 180-degree thermostat in there or if I need to get one that is about a 195 or something like that. So let's check it out. I got a few prep things to do, like take off the air cleaner and get a little bit of room around the thermostat cover so that I can proceed. So let's check that out. All right, so here we are in the engine bay, and as you can see, I've got to remove this. To get at what I'm looking at is this part here. So I need to get down there to get those bolts out and then get this thing changed out. So it's a little bit tight. I may have to remove a few things, but I don't actually think so. I think I'll be able to get in there without doing that. So just going to get set up for doing that and we'll take it off. Looks okay. I have no idea when this was last done, so hopefully things will go smooth. All right, let's take this off. Not too sure if I need to take this part off or I can get it off without removing that. It might come off easy. Yeah, no problem. Put that aside. Take the wing nut off. There we go. Take this guy out. Got a few things here to take off as well. Leave that on. How we looking? Oh, a couple more lines underneath. See if I can just remove this without taking those lines off, which would be perfect. Yeah, I like that. All right, let's, this has to come out here. There, take that out of the way. Should give me enough room. I'm not going to take this off since I'm ditching this entire radiator hose. So I'm going to get set up to take these things off, and I believe they're 9/16, but I'll confirm on that. Here's the thermostat here. So I'm going to try and take these guys out. All right, putting this in. Give it a crank. Yeah, a little hard for me to do with the leverage I have here. So I'm going to move on to a slightly bigger wrench. All right, have this guy out, which is a 1/2 inch. Give me a little bit more leverage. We'll see how that goes. Is possible I might need to use some penetrating oil on there, but let's hope not. Oh, man. Let's try the other one. Oh, you know what? I am going to have to take this radiator hose off. So I'm going to take the radiator hose off because I can't reach that bolt through there. So let's get that off. I'm not going to use this clamp again, so let's take it right off. All right, so it's just going to be a matter of taking this off, and then we'll have access to the thermostat housing. Let's see if I can just pull it off. Yeah, looks like so. Oh my goodness. That's a little bit crusty. At least I can access that, but I am going to put a little bit of penetrating oil on those before I attempt to get those off. All right, let's go. I'm going to bring in my 1/2-inch breaker bar here. I'm not going to torque on it too hard. I'm going to wiggle it back and forth and hopefully loosen it to get it off. So once again, 9/16 on that one. Let's give it a shot. This should work no problem. Wow. Stubborn. Try this one. That one's moving. I hope. That is. The guy's moving, no problem. There we go. Finally getting them to move here. Let's go back to the wrench now that they're loosened, or should be loosened anyway. There we go. Great. It's coming along nicely now. Wow, it's pretty dry. Pretty dry. probably going to get new ones for sure. There's the other one. Let's see if I can get that done. Well, the thermostat cover's moving, which is kind of cool. There we go. Looks a bit of a mess underneath there, but the thermostat looks pretty good right now. And inside the cover, it's pretty clean as well. So there is hope for this part yet. That's what we're dealing with right now. Going to give that a bit of a scrape, check out the thermostat, and see what it looks like inside. So luckily with the radiator out and all that stuff, don't have to worry about a bunch of fluid coming out, so pretty good in that regard. Okay, this is in pretty hard for sure. Very tight. I have no idea what type of gasket that is. It's super thin. Put on a better one. All right, let's give this a little bit of a tap. There we go. This guy will come out. What do we got on this one? That's what we got on there. It says Go 92, whatever that means. So I'm just going to put in a 180 or get another one. 195. Who knows? Anyway, not much to these things, but super important. There's what we're looking at here. You know, the threads look pretty good. I might tap those out a little bit. And same with that one. It's super dry inside here because I've got the fluid out, obviously. And this surface here could definitely be better for sure. Start with this razor blade, see how that goes. Not too bad. Getting a lot of it off nicely. Just vacuuming this up. I have a couple other gasket scrapers which you've seen me use before as well, but I've since sharpened them up, so they ought to be pretty good. This is the one I'm going to use. Yeah, it definitely helps out a little bit. That's looking good. It's pretty clean. Before I put the gasket on, I will go over it very, very lightly with some emery cloth just to make sure I have everything off. But it looks pretty good. So looking at this, this is the one that I have as the replacement. I'll show you what it could look like, and I'm also going to refurbish the old one as well and see how that looks, and then make a decision. Very similar to what I did with the timing cover as well. So let's check this one out. Just give me a sec. Here's what this one is labeled as: thermostat housing with emission port, chrome, small block, 1974 to 1981. All right, let's check this out. Leave the screws in there. It didn't come with a gasket at all. But you know, it is different inside. I don't know how long this would last compared to the other type, but let's see what it could potentially look like on here. Before bolting it down, let's check that out. So this port would go here. Those two items would go like that. It's a pretty decent improvement, I would say. And then once again, the hose would go on here. I do have two brand new bolts in there, so I'm not going to worry about cleaning the other ones up. I'm just going to use the brand new ones no matter what. But you know what? Not too bad with the chrome, but I am going to fix up the other one because it doesn't look too difficult to clean up. And then we'll do a side-by-side on that. Once we make a decision, we'll install. Let's have another look at this old part here. Obviously it's pretty dirty. It's got this old gasket. Be interesting to see what's underneath. It's a little bit different than the chrome one. But let's get this thing off. Check it out. This is an original 1977 thermostat housing. So the gasket is just some sort of paper gasket here. Take this out because I won't need that. If I can get it out, that is. Come on. There we go. I will keep it as a reference, but I don't need it. I'm going to have to take this off as well. Some sort of sensor. I'll see if I can get a new one, or I'll just reuse that sensor. So let's give this a shot to clean it up. There we go. That's clamped down pretty nice. Now, find my tool here. There we go. Got my tool. Should be pretty easy to scrape this off now. Getting the gasket off, now I'm going to take it over and clean it with some water and some degreaser and see how it looks after that. Okay, here we have the part again. Let's start getting it clean. This stuff here will probably just come off relatively easy. This is just corrosion or some sort of junk on it, dirt, sediment, maybe kind of like a lime-ish type of thing. All right, let's start cleaning it with the parts cleaner and the orange degreaser. Let that sit for a minute and we'll come back and clean it with the parts cleaning brush. There's my parts cleaning brush, same one I use for all of them. Let's give it a try. Give it a rinse and come back and do it again. It's already looking way, way better. Progress, it's looking a little bit better, but it's pretty pitted in some areas, so it's unlikely I'm going to use this. We'll see. Looks pretty good on the inside. Time to get this off. All right, we have this clamped in. I'm going to try and get this off here right now. And to use that, I'm just going to use a adjustable wrench. Hopefully it'll be good enough. I'm not expecting this to come off easily. Nope. Thing's on there pretty tight, so I'm gonna have to put some penetrating oil in there and let it sit. I'm gonna use my well-used can of PB Blaster. This stuff works great. Well worth the investment. So let's try that out and see how it goes. I'm gonna let this one sit overnight, you guys. And this will just run down the threads on the inside, hopefully. And I'm going to put some on the inside as well. Down in there. And let that sit. There, this can stay soaking overnight, and we'll see how it works in the morning. There, I've done a bit of cleaning on this, wire brushed it, Got most of the old paint off and the dirt. So it's not looking too bad. I'm still going to redo it and see how that goes. Time to take this off. So the penetrating oil has sat in overnight, and I'm just going to hook that up and hopefully get that off. All right, let's get this in the makeshift vise, which should be good enough for this. This clamps it in tight enough, I think. Back to my big adjustable wrench again and trying it out. All right, there we go. Starting to move. Still pretty stiff though. There's this old emission sensor, or an old sensor that has something to do with emissions, but I'm going to put it into the new thermostat anyway because it's got a spot for it, so I'll do that. Or I'll put it back in this one. So there we are now. It's looking not too bad. Clean that out a little bit and paint it up. Here's the side-by-side comparison right now. You've got this really nice chrome one, which is actually quite heavy and also has this rubber gasket on it, which probably be a better seal than the traditional. But you know what? I've never used this type before, so I'm going to do a little bit of reading on it, see if it's good to go on that. And here's this one. And I'm just going to prime it and paint it and then do a final evaluation of it after that. And either way, this sensor fits in here, no problem. Like so. And it'll also obviously fit back in the original, no problem. So whatever works, I'll use it. So I'm going to get some primer on here, let that dry, and then put the paint on it. I'm going to use this primer on it, very high temperature, and then I'll put the paint on after that, which is also high temperature. I'm going to use one of these plugs on the top. Looks like the orange one will probably work, I hope. There we go, that's perfect. Continue painting. So I decided, instead of going ahead and painting it right away, I'm going to try fill in these pits. And I don't know if it's going to actually work, but I'll give it a test. And what I'm using here is a combination of JB Weld steel hardener and steel resin. So I'm going to mix that and then I'm going to apply it to those pits and see how it comes out. So let's mix this up. So it's 50-50, half and half here. Not too sure how much I'm going to actually need here. Now we're going to put this on. And mix it up. See how it goes. Just gonna kind of spread it on here, fill in the pits. We'll let that dry and see if that is going to make any difference. It should. Just cutting up some fine sandpaper to go on this sanding block here. This sanding block just has these teeth in here. Sandpaper goes in it, and you punch it down, like so. Wrap it around the back. Give it a trim. All right, there we have the sanding block with some super fine sandpaper on there, which I'm going to use on the surface of the intake manifold where the water inlet or thermostat cover goes. Super, super fine. So I'm looking at 400 grit right there. So here we are back at the intake manifold top, and this is the area where the thermostat cover or water intake is going to go. And what I'm going to do is take the sandpaper, which is 400 grit, and just lightly go over there. And it's important to choose a flat block because you want it to be flat on there. You want it to be flat there because whatever you sand off, you don't want it to be rounding any of the edges here. You just want to keep it nice and flat. That's the main reason for having it on a sanding block. So I'm going to get that started and see how it goes. Coming in from a slightly different angle here. Do a final wipe down in there, and that's an important step. Now you know that's nice and flat, and the new gasket will fit on there really well now. So there it is. I'll show you a close-up here. There we go. There's the close-up, and now we're ready to put on the thermostat and the thermostat cover, which will be happening next. I'm going to be using this fine sanding disc that is on my angle grinder, and I'm going to try and grind that off and see how that goes. That looks pretty good. Here's where we are with this after grinding it down. All the pits are out, very smooth, and this stuff is good enough to stay in there for sure. So let's prime that up and let's get it painted. It's nice. There, we'll let this dry and then we'll come back and paint it. Okay, let's paint this blue and see how it turns out. Hey, it's me again, Jonathan. I'm down here in my workshop just getting the thermostat ready to put back on the C3. So I'll show you some of the stuff that I have on the go here, and then we'll take it up to the car and put the thermostat and the thermostat cover back on the Corvette. So let me show you what I got here. All right, so this is the actual thermostat cover or water inlet. It looks to be pretty good, and you know what, I'm going to give this one a try. So just going to pop this off here. Remember these plugs? It keeps that nice inside, and then you can just crack that off and wash it away, and that's looks brand new again. As far as the bottom's concerned, I'm going to take the painter's tape off here, and before I install, I'm going to sand it with that 400 grit sandpaper, keeping it nice and flat, and I'll do that in a second. Some other things that I have on the go. Here's the original thermostat. It is a 92, so that would be equivalent to a 195, I believe. The way these work is the spring side is on the manifold side, and that is the side that heats up first, so it's getting the pressure and the hotter liquid from the engine, and that creates a reaction in the thermostat that allows it to open and allows the coolant from the engine to go through the upper rad hose back into the radiator to cool off again and then recirculate back into the engine. So they're not electronic, they're mechanical and chemical as well, in the sense that when it gets to a certain temperature, this is made out of a bimetallic spring that has two metals on it, and they contract and expand at different temperatures. It's all based on temperature and how that spring reacts to the temperature as well. So I've got this original one, which I'm not putting back in. I've got a 180 degree thermostat, which is made for the C3s for this time period, which mine fits in for that. And it's a 180. So I'm going to put a 180 in it because I don't want the engine to heat up to 195 before it opens up. I want it to get coolant at 180 degrees opposed to 195, and that should work well. I did buy a 195 as well, which, you know, if when things are running and it doesn't work properly, then I'll just pop this guy in. But for now, I'm going to put the 180 in. I haven't had any overheating issues. So these engines get really hot quickly. So the earlier I can get coolant in there, cooling it down, the better. And that's why I'm going to choose to use the 180 on that. So I'm going to get ready to do that. I am going to use a gasket for this one, and it's made by Felpro. And so this is the website here. Whoops, right there where you can get them. And I'm just going to use that. And to augment that, I was on the fence whether or not I want to use any gasket sealer. So I am going to use this with the gasket and take it from there. So let's clean up the bottom of this and get out there and get it installed. And that's about all I have to do for that one. So heading out to the garage, and I'm going to install this now. I've got the brand new bolts on there, and I will confirm the torque for that, but I believe it's 20 pounds only. So once again, I go towards this book to help me out in some of these things, and you know, I have them for all my other vehicles as well. They're pretty good. So when it comes to the cooling system, it's on chapter 3.1. It gives you some torque specifications. So when it comes to the thermostat housing cover or water outlet bolts from a 1968 through 1977, we're looking at only 20 foot-pounds there. So that's what I'm going to set my torque wrench up, and that should work fine. I'm also going to do a quick clean out of the bolt holes on the intake manifold with this tap and die, and just lightly put that in just to clean the threads out a little bit because they were pretty rusty. So I'm going to head out and do that right now. Before I put the housing back on, I want to make sure that I get the junk that is in the inlet out before I start doing that. So I'm going to take the vacuum cleaner and suck out whatever stuff is still in there, and then I'm going to get the thermostat and all the other stuff in here ready to go. All right, the tap that I'm going to use is a 3/8 number 16 on there. So I'm just going to put that in the threads and lightly screw it in just to clear the threads so that the new bolts go in fine. So it's super important to make sure you get these things in right. opposed to being on an angle. You want to make sure that they are meeting the thread and going in properly, which this one is. And it's just cleaning out the thread space as much as possible. It's not really tapping them. Just does a clean out, that's all. I would recommend doing that, using this, especially if it's an older engine like this. I'm not really putting any pressure on this as I do it. It is in an awkward spot though. There, it's bottomed out. That's as far in as I want to go. And then just take it out. Same on this side. And once again, I'll feel that bottom out, which is right there. And then I'll just back it off. And that is all I need to do for the threading, just to make sure they're nice and clear and ready for the new bolts. You can see in there, there's a little bit of grime. Another thing that I would recommend doing is using some acetone just to clean the surfaces, especially if you're going to be using some sort of gasket sealer. So for the tiny amount of work that it takes to clean the surfaces, it's well worth it. And you can see definitely taking off some dirt. That's all you have to do for that. And the same for this one as well. Just wipe the surface down. Help remove any overspray. All right, there we go. Pretty decent surface. This is going to go down on here. And then later on, I'm going to put in the sensors in there. But for now, this will go down on here. I'm just going to put the gasket stuff on and we'll take it from there. So I'm using this gasket stuff, Permatech water pump and thermostat housing sealer. I'm going to be putting a slightly smaller bead on here than normal, I think. So you want to just kind of trace it around. Next thing I'm going to do is drop in the thermostat. And just as a reminder, remember which side is up and which side is down. This part with the spring, the longer part goes in. This is the top. So it's just remember that as the top, the smaller side, and the spring goes in. So I'm going to place that in. In there. Like so. perfect fit. Now I'm going to take the gasket and put that in. So these gaskets have an up and a down. That side is down and this side is up. It's just slightly different. So you place that on top. Like so. I'm going to put a small coating of the gasket sealer on there as well. So you can see there, just a super thin coat, and that's just going to help it stick to the existing gasket. And then just place that on top, like so. Then I have these guys, and remember I told you they were torqued at 20 foot-pounds. One thing to do right now is to put those in, but don't torque them up. Let the gasket sealer seal and harden a little bit. So I'm going to wait an hour, then I'm going to come back and torque it. So right now I'm just threading these in lightly. Same on that side. So I'm just going to basically hand tighten. And I'm going to do them evenly. So it's important to snug these down evenly. Like, don't do one side harder than the other. Just try and do them at the same time. So I'm hand tightening that. And I'm hand tightening that. So I'll come back in an hour or so and just torque those up. In the meantime, I'm going to stick this back on, and you want to put some Teflon tape on the threads as well. Stick the Teflon tape on. That's perfect. Fire that in. Perfect. That's in. Letting that set up slightly, and then I'll be back to torque that in. So the gasket sealer has set up. It's been an hour, and now I'm just torquing this to the right spec, which is 20 foot-pounds. And I kind of share the distribution of torquing this on, so I want to do it evenly on both sides. This is getting pretty close to being torqued in there. There. That's it. 20 foot-pounds. This guy is on. There's the final product in there. Looking pretty good. Should be fine. Hey everyone, that completes the video on the thermostat and thermostat cover replacement and refresh on the C3 Corvette. So as you saw in the video, I didn't end up using the chrome one for now, and I just restored the existing thermostat cover or water inlet, and I'm pretty happy with it. I think that it'll work out fine. Lots of little steps included in this video for those of you who are interested on how to replace your own thermostat, or if you're in a position like me where you're progressively refreshing and restoring your own C3 Corvette. So hopefully you found it useful. Thanks so much for sticking with me and staying with this channel. It's greatly appreciated. If you are a new viewer and like the type of content that's on here, please consider subscribing. I greatly appreciate it, and I plan on keeping these videos coming so you'll get your money's worth out of your time. So once again, everyone, thanks so much for sticking with me, watching these videos, and we'll catch you all in the next one, which is coming really, really soon.